Welcome to the Breakfast Show on Faith FM with Skafy and Elliot. This is the best place to start your day with positive and uplifting thoughts. You're listening across Australia on 87.6, 87.8 or 88, depending on where you are. You may also listen to us through the Faith FM app, which you can download for free today. If you are listening live, is Friday, the 24th of April, 2026. Today's a special day. It's a special episode. This is our Anzac special episode because Anzac Day is going to be commemorated tomorrow. But of course, tomorrow we are not on air, so we are anticipating and doing our special program today on Friday. And I will have some very special guests with us today. But first, let me introduce our regulars, our family here. Producer Shell, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And good morning to Mr. Elliot.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. And our first guest today, it's a fan favorite. We have Lyle Southwell with us. Lyle Southwell has been the host of this program for many, many years. So he is an emeritus host. He's also a theologian, a historian, and he's going to be sharing with us some interesting stories of battles, of gallantry, of valor in the Bible that is, in line, in harmony with the spirit of the Anzac Day. Good morning to you, Lyle. It's great to have you here, my friend.
Morning, Joseph. Fantastic to be on the Breakfast Show. It's been ages since I've been on the Breakfast Show, so it's good to be back again.
No, where have you been walking these days, Lyle?
Yeah, kind of all over the place, to be honest. Got a new role that's got me pretty much spread all over the Pacific. So
okay,
it's exciting, but it's a big role. So.
Maybe that will give you opportunities to do the Kokoda trek one day.
You never know. I've certainly in my Pacific travels been to a number of very, very significant World War II sites because, World War II obviously came to, very, very close to Australia. It came to Australia. In Broome and in Darwin.
Yeah, even Newcastle. There's like some Japanese submarine attacks in Newcastle.
Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney Harbour. It's true. Well, let's start with some words of gratitude here. So, the first thing that I'm going to be grateful for today, I'm grateful for Anzac Day. I think this is the most spiritual day we have in Australia. It's kind of like, feels like the Day of Atonement in a way, It is the only holiday left that is actually a spiritual holiday.
It is the only event that we have in Australia. It's the only national event in which you will go and you will hear a spiritual message.
There you go.
So it's a very, very unique event. And so for us, obviously here on Faith FM, and for Christians, this is something that we need to embrace.
Yeah.
Because this is something that secular Australia will go to on Saturday morning, and they will hear a spiritual message.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're celebrating spiritual values here. And every time that we think about Anzac Day, of course, we're celebrating mateship, we're celebrating sacrifice, we're celebrating self-sacrifice. But I cannot but think always of that Bible passage that says, no greater love has a man than to lay down his own life for his friend.
And that really is the classic Anzac Bible verse,
isn't it?
Right there. That's the one that you're going to hear quoted more than anything else at a dawn service.
Yeah.
By the pastor who is presenting
officiating
at the service.
Amazing. Look, today Lyle is going to be sharing with us a few battles in the Bible: the Battle of Mount Tabor, the Battle of the Valley of
Elah Valley,
and we are also going to see the Battle of Jerusalem.
We are.
So we're going to have some really exquisite, incredible stories here, and we'll see what we can learn from those stories. So stay tuned.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
The special Anzac Day program in anticipation of tomorrow's Anzac Day 2026. We're now going to get a quiz question. Elliot is going to be reading one for us. I'm wondering if you have a special quiz theme for us, Elliot.
We do actually today. It's going to be a bit more about battles and wars, considering that it's coming up to Anzac Day. So that is going to be more the theme of today's quizzes. So the first quiz question that we have for you is, at which location did Gideon defeat the Midianites with just 300 men?
Ooh, it's a geography one.
It is.
Do you know the answer to that one, Lyle? You probably know that one. Where was the place where Gideon defeated the Midianites? In which location?
Yeah, and
I know exactly where that is.
You know exactly where that is?
In fact, we could do a whole presentation on that particular battlefield right here.
Maybe when we get to the answer to that quiz question, you can share with us some glimpses, perhaps a little overview, a quick one.
Yeah, more than happy to.
Okay, so if you do know the answer to that one, 0491 064 669, I am thinking here, what was the location where Gideon, I don't know.
Asymmetric warfare at its best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asymmetric warfare at its best. I don't know. I'm stumped. I don't know the answer to that one. I'll be waiting for the answer. So one more time, Elliot, what's the quiz question?
Is, at which location did Gideon defeat the Midianites with just 300 men?
Okay. If you do know the answer to that one, text us here, 0491 064 669. All right, Lyle, let's start with our show today. So you have selected a couple of stories that you wanted to share. The first one being the battle that happened around Mount Tabor in Israel. That's the story also famously known as the story of Deborah and Barak. Now, why did you choose that particular story? What is interesting about that story?
So there's a number of things that are interesting about this. First of all, you've got a battle of annihilation. That is very, very rare in history. Okay. And, it's something that, commanders on the battlefield, any commander, that's what they aim for, is to, one decisive action that completely wipes out the opposition so that it's never, ever going to come back again. Very, very rarely achieved. The classic one that everybody remembers is the Battle of Cannae, Hannibal against the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, I should say. And that is taught in, military schools around the world to this day as a classic battle of annihilation.
So, meaning if you win that battle, you win the whole war. Is that
well? It's interesting because Hannibal actually didn't win the war, but he wiped out the entire Roman army with half as many people, with half as many men.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it was a battle of envelopment that he was able to achieve there, just truly, truly remarkable. Of course, he was a Phoenician from Carthage. The modern day Phoenicians, of course, would be Lebanese people, and fighting in Italy against the Roman legions, and basically wiped them out to the last man.
Wow. Okay. So there is that. We see this in the Battle of
we
Mount
see
Tabor.
the same in the Battle of Mount Tabor. So this is a rare experience. And what you find is that there's a lot of similarities in tactics that Deborah uses at the Battle of Mount Tabor, which brings up the other point that is so interesting about Mount Tabor is that it's one of those very, very rare examples of a woman leading people into battle, so a female general. And so, you got a couple of others that sort of pop up from time to time, but
kind of like a Joan of Arc, but in the Old Testament.
Yeah, but how many? I mean, you think back through history, and really, was Joan of Arc a general, or was she just somebody who inspired the troops? Whereas, certainly Deborah goes to Barak and says to Barak, you need to fight this battle against Jabin and Sisera. And Barak turns around and he says, no, I won't do it unless you come. So he refuses to do it without her. And then the actual strategy is a strategy that she forms. She forms the winning strategy. This is once again an example of asymmetric warfare. So there is massive differences between these two opposing forces. The Canaanites have 900 chariots, and that's like the equivalent of, today's main battle tank.
Iron chariots, right? It's like a battle.
Yeah.
So, what did they look like, these chariots? You reckon these iron chariots? Were they like fully enclosed? Help me to imagine a picture in my mind.
So basically, the war chariot was 2 wheels, 2 to 4 horses, depending on the culture, most likely 2 horses in this particular time period. Unbelievably fast moving for the day and age in which you moved on foot. You're up against infantry on foot. They are armored. They give you height above the enemy, so you're fighting from a high platform. And they give, not only do they give the fighter, the warrior, they give him natural protection in that he is higher than you, he is above you, he is striking down, he has a chariot around him, and then he's got 2 horses that are out in front of him, and those horses are going to do tremendous damage. You've got to fight your way through those horses to be able to get at the chariot rider. And so a charge in, the late Bronze Era, which is what you're dealing with here with charioteers, this was considered to be, the peak of military technology at the time. The Israelites have none of that. Oh, and of course the Canaanites have battle-hardened veterans. They have trained soldiers. They have proper equipment. They have swords and they have spears and they have armor, and they've got a standing army that they have, and they outnumber the Israelites 2-1 in this particular conflict. The Israelites, of course, are farmers and artisans who have come from their homes. A lot of what they're going to be fighting with is clubs and farming implements. There's going to be very, very few swords and spears. Armor's probably going to be non-existent. They are foot troops.
So they are vastly under-equipped, under-trained.
Yes.
Outperformed technologically. So let's start from the beginning here. So that story, where do we find it in the Bible, and what is the situation that Israel finds itself in to the point that they decide that they want to engage in this battle against all odds?
So you'll find it in Judges chapter 4 and 5. And so I've got a bit of a series that I've done on Bible battlefields, and most of those battles, interestingly enough, you're going to find in the book of Judges. Judges is that book of the Bible that is just, it's a complete outlier. It is dirty and gritty and violent. It is heavily R-rated and in places heavily X-rated. It is a spicy book of the Bible. And that's where you're going to find this particular story. And, there's some serious violence in this story, as you work your way through it. And the 2 heroes of the story are both women.
All right. Well, I cannot wait to hear more. So what are the 2 sides of this story? So in one hand, you have the Israelites, and
yes.
who are these, the
So
opponents?
the Canaanites, the Israelites have wandered away from God. Deborah is acting as the judge at this particular time, which is equivalent to head of state. So she forms 3 different roles. She's a prophetess, she's a head of state, and she is a military general. Name me some people in history that can match that.
Yeah.
There's going to be very, very few, if any. We can look back in British history and we can say, well, maybe Queen Elizabeth is up there. She certainly rallied her troops. She wore armor. She raised Britain against the Spanish Armada, and, was definitely an inspiring figure militarily, and was also a head of state, but she wasn't a prophetess.
And to carry all of these 3 titles.
Yeah, those are 3 big titles right there. Those are 3 very, very big titles.
Particularly as well in a very, I would say, patriarchal-oriented form of organizing society.
This is Bronze Era, late Bronze Era.
Yeah.
It's just unheard of.
It's amazing to see how much respect they had for Deborah. So, okay, so in one side we have them. The Israelites, they rebelled against God. They forgot about God. Deborah's trying to organize the nation, bring them back to the Lord.
The other thing that the Bible says about Deborah is that she was a mother. It's not your typical mum image, is it?
No.
It's not your typical mum image. She's a mum.
Yeah, and she's a mom as well.
Yeah, she's a mom.
Wow, she's a high achiever.
Yeah.
So, and who's on the other side?
Okay, so you got Sisera and Jabin. Jabin is the Canaanite king. Sisera is his general. Jabin doesn't go to war himself. He sends his general out to go to war with his 900 chariots, with an overwhelming force against this Israelite rebellion that has broken out. He has been oppressing the Israelites for many years. He has been persecuting them. He has been using them as his own personal cash cow. He has basically been bleeding them dry, starving them to death, so that he can become wealthy and powerful.
So you mentioned that they have been oppressed for many years. And was there a drop of water, like the straw that broke the camel's back? What is it that said, you know what, let's rebel now because we cannot take this any longer?
Yeah, because it comes down to God comes to Deborah and says, now's the time.
Oh, okay.
So the people turn back to God as a result of, the influence of Deborah. And Deborah is told, go and find Barak and get him to gather the people. And so, Barak gathers two of the tribes. That was very tribal at this particular point in Israel's history. He gathers two of the tribes together to go and there's about 10,000 men in each from each tribe that turn up. So there's this, these are small armies, but very significant conflict. It's actually the first Battle of Megiddo. So there've been a number of different battles of Megiddo. You've got the Battle of Megiddo in 1600 BC, which was between Thutmose III and the Canaanites, so the Egyptian Thutmose and the Canaanites. Then, that was the first one. The second one, of course, is the Battle of Mount Tabor that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's the first one in the Bible in terms of battles of Megiddo that we know
It's the first one in the Bible.
But not the first one in history.
And that's significant because the Battle of Megiddo then becomes a type of the Battle of Armageddon at the end of time. So it's the first one that's in the Bible. The next one is in 1260 BC, which is the Battle of Gideon versus the Midianite alliance. And the answer to the quiz question is not Megiddo. There is a more technically correct answer than that, because Megiddo is a large valley, and these battles were fought in different places within that valley. Then you've got in 609 BC. So we're working our way down through history. You've got the fourth Battle of Megiddo, which was Necho II of Egypt versus Josiah, in which Josiah loses his life. And then, of course, you do a big jump down to 1918. We've got Edmund Allenby versus Lehman von Sanders in the First World War, which was the last Battle of Megiddo that our world has seen up until this particular point. Of course, Revelation speaks about the Battle of Armageddon, which is actually the opposite of valley, because the Ha is
a mount.
So, but a direct reference to it. And in fact, it's directly referencing back to Deborah's battle, because it is a battle between, it's a battle between a woman is the church, and Satan, the devil. So you've got those aspects coming in. It's a type. They're type and antitype. And, of course, the Battle of Armageddon is a battle of annihilation, just like the Battle of Deborah was a battle of annihilation.
So how did the battle played out?
So the strategy that Deborah forms is that she attacks the enemy's strategy. If you read famous generals like, say, Sun Tzu or something like this, you will always find that they say one of the primary things you need to do is, rather than attacking the enemy, is attack the enemy's strategy. And so what you'll find is that Deborah says to Barak, I will draw Sisera to you. So she's going to go out in front of the army, and she's going to basically form herself as bait.
She's going to paint like a big target on her.
Yeah, she's going to paint a big target on herself. This is where the Israelites are. This is where Deborah is. Sisera is going to go out and it's like, okay, we cut the head off the snake. Deborah is our problem. There she is. Let's go there. So the problem they have to face is chariots. So how do you conquer chariots? The first thing that she does is that she chooses the battlefield. She chooses to fight on her own ground. She chooses to fight at the head of the valley, where the ground becomes uneven and you can't ride chariots. But the next thing that she chooses is to fight in the rain.
Oh,
iron chariots, a flooding river, right? In the rain. So the Kishon is the river that runs down the valley of Megiddo. And when that's in full flood, of course, all those plains turn to mud.
Wow.
So she draws Sisera out into uneven terrain where he's got the river and the mud and the swamps at his back. So he's now trapped. He's trapped between the Israelites, who are on the foothills of Mount Tabor, where he can't use his chariots because the ground is too uneven, but to his back, he's got the flooded Kishon River and Megiddo plains, and so he's locked himself in. Then what you find is that Barak divides his army by tribe into two companies. And by doing so, it allows him to follow the strategy of Hannibal at Cannae, where he can envelop. So he's now got Sisera, I should say, in an environment where his chariots can't move. If he tries to back out, he's going to get bogged. And the Bible says they got bogged, and the Bible says they drowned, and the Bible says the Kishon swept them away.
Wow.
Because they obviously tried to get out. They can't go forward because they can't use their chariots because the ground is too uneven. If you go there today, if you go to Mount Tabor today and you look at the foothills, it's like, you're not going to be driving chariots around here. He needs hard, open ground to be able to use his strategy. She attacks his strategy.
Incredible.
Now, of course, we need to recognize the inspiration of God that is involved here. And then, of course, you've got Sisera who recognizes that his chariot is not going to save him. The Bible says that he jumped down from his chariot and he ran away on foot and actually made an escape, which kind of nobody else did. And when he's making an escape, obviously he's exhausted, he's probably wounded, he's probably got some blood loss. He finds the tent of Jael.
So I'll just hold you there, because I want to know what happened to Caesar.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
It's our special Anzac Day programming, anticipation and celebration of Anzac Day. Tomorrow I have Lyle Southwell here with me, producer Shell, and Elliot. Elliot is now going to reveal to us the answer. Actually, before let's see if Lyle, if the answer is going to be matching what you had in mind. Because actually, not a lot of people knew the answer to that one. The text line was actually quite quiet for that quiz question.
Yeah, it was
I myself didn't know, really.
It was a bit tricky. So I'll read the question out again and I'll tell you the answer. So the question was, at which location did Gideon defeat the Midianites with just 300 men? The answer was Jezreel. And that's found in Judges chapter 6 and 7. So...
Is that what you had in mind, or you had an even more specific place in mind?
A more specific place than that.
All right.
There was it was the hill of Morah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
The hill of Morah.
Okay. And then
which is it's right there with Jezreel for sure.
Yeah.
And you would say, hey, it was right here at Jezreel.
Gigantic, right?
Yeah, it's a large area.
Yeah.
But the actual hill was called the hill of Morah.
Okay. Is it a big hill? How is it like?
No, it's actually a small hill. You can go there today. There is nearby where Gideon did the famous thing of drinking from the river and so forth. There's a caravan park there and a campground. You can actually camp there and
really?
Drink out of that spring yourself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. There you go. Well,
it's on my bucket list to do next time I go to Israel.
Yeah, right. So let me know when you're going.
I'll throw my swag down there where Gideon threw his swag down and.
That is so cool.
And throw a fleece out and see what happens to it.
Yeah. All right, Elliot, can you give us the next quiz question, please?
Okie dokie. The next question is, who said, if they say thus to us, wait until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place and not go up to them? I'll say that again. Who said, if they say thus to us, wait until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place and not go up to them.
Okay, I think I know this one.
If you do know the answer, you can always text us in at 0491 064 669.
Okay, all right.
We have one correct answer.
That is a pretty cool story as well. That one is a really good story. Just, can you read it one more time?
One more time. It says, who said, if they say thus to us, wait until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place and not go up to them.
0491 064 669 is the number to text if you do know the answer, if you'd like to play the quiz game along with us. And now we're back to the story of the Battle of Mount Tabor. We've seen that Deborah, aided by divine inspiration, I would say, she lured Sisera and his armies, the 900 iron chariots, down to the plain where there's a massive rain that came in. They got bogged down. He lost his tactical advantage of the chariots. And now Caesar was on the loose. He was on the run. He was running around. And what happened to him? Yeah,
so what you've got happening here is envelopment. So the Israelites, as they have attacked the Canaanites have lost their advantage. They've lost of their chariots, and as a result of that, you can see you can in your mind's eye, you can see the morale beginning to collapse. Mm-hmm. And typically in ancient battlefields, casualties would be very, very low until morale collapsed and they started to flee. And the Israelites attacking in 2 companies are able to envelop them and push them into the river. And so essentially they're being pushed into the muddy ground, they're being pushed into the river. Sisera is able to get down. And, the strategy of envelopment is a strategy that, everybody's tried it and it very, very rarely succeeds. We've got some classic examples coming down through history of people who have been able to achieve complete envelopment. Kaneo is one of the ones that we mentioned, but, Stalingrad, the Battle of Stalingrad, Stalin was able to accomplish that against the Germans.
So envelopment is basically you're surrounding the enemy's troops from all sides?
That's right. And cut off any means of escape and then fight a battle of annihilation. So once the Germans were surrounded at Stalingrad, it became a battle of annihilation. The Russians fought them until there was none of them left.
Nobody left.
None of them left.
There's no retreat.
Yep, that's it. They were, the Germans were trying to supply there by air for some time because they could get aircraft in and out, but it was just an impossibility, and it was a lost cause. Another classic example, of course, is of generals who were able to achieve that was Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. In the United States, very, very famous battle there. And then Setaweo in South Africa at the Battle of Isandlwana, and I butcher all of these African names, with the Horns of the Bull. Once again, you've got the same strategy coming in there, and a battle of annihilation where, the British forces were just completely wiped out to the last man, even though they had vastly superior technology. And so when you look at this particular battle, there's a lot of parallels there because, the Israelites, the Canaanites have vastly superior technology. It is in the Wala, you've got, Zulus who are carrying essentially spears and shields up against, riflemen and artillery.
And even today we can see this big difference in technology. I'm thinking about the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan recently, where Armenia lost by a big margin because they were counting with the regular artillery, the regular troops, but the Azerbaijan army had drones.
Yeah.
And basically the drones wiped them out.
That's it.
There was just
all
no
about,
competition.
it is now all about drone warfare.
Yeah.
Back in Deborah's day, it was all about chariots. Now it's all about drones.
So the army is being looked after here. God flooded the plain. They are enveloped. There's a combination here between divine aid and military strategy and courage. But you mentioned that there was like a second woman that was a
Sisera, and this is what you do when the strategy is that when you reach that point where you've been surrounded, your only option is to an attempt to break out. And you've got to fight through the enemy lines to break out. And that is all that there is left. And Sisera attempts this and he actually gets away. Nobody else does. He gets away. Being the commander, he's going to have, the best equipment, the best chance of getting away. But he does get away. He runs. He actually gets away from the entire battlefield. He's off by himself. He thinks he's got clear. He comes across the tent, a Bedouin-style tent of an Israelite who is allied to him, and he is met at the door of the tent by, the mother of the home, Jael, her name is, and she's like, yeah, come on in, I'll take care of you. And she's like, you've had a hard day, and here, lie down, and I'll give you some milk, and I'll hide you here. You don't need to worry. Just you need to relax.
Rest a little bit.
Can you imagine just how unimaginably exhausted this guy is?
Yeah.
So typically in ancient...
fighting to exhaustion.
Yes. Typically the way it worked on an ancient battlefield was that if you are swinging a spear or a sword or an axe, you can maintain that. If you are incredibly fit, you can maintain that for 15 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's that long?
Yes.
Sometimes we imagine like they're fighting and like brandishing their swords for like hours, like 6-7 hours, but that's not what happened.
No, you look at a boxing match and how long each round goes for in a boxing match and how utterly exhausted the two competitors are, at the end of each round.
So after
and they are swinging nothing but gloves.
Yeah.
Okay, now you put a heavy bronze sword into their hand and see how long they last. Human endurance is, and this is where the Romans became so successful because they invented the idea of having reserves. So they would send their main army in. 15 minutes later, once the enemy was exhausted, the reserve would come in just like a wrecking ball, just like fresh, like an absolute wrecking ball, and they would be fighting against opponents who could barely lift their sword.
Wow.
So this is where you imagine.
I never imagined that. That's
and Caesar has got far enough away so that no one's chasing him anymore.
Yeah.
So he's fought a hard battle. He's made a breakout. Then he's got away on foot, and he's far enough away. He's a lot of kilometers away. He is wrecked.
But then he said, look, I found safety here. There's
safety.
A friend.
JL, she's put a smile on her face. She welcomes him in. She's like, gives him milk to drink, soothes him. It's like, here, go to sleep in the back of my tent.
All right. So all is good for him, or is it?
Until JL comes in with a tent peg and a hammer and drives that tent peg through his head.
Wow.
Straight through his skull. As I say, this is a R-rated story right here.
Gory story.
It's a gory story.
Yeah.
And so he was defeated first by a woman on the battlefield and then by a woman in her tent.
Wow. And so, but you know what? When you look at that story, what is the spiritual significance here? Can we find Jesus somewhere?
Absolutely. The story is all about Jesus. And, this is one of the great things about the story. So if we look at, let me just bring this up here real quick. If we look at Barak, for instance, and see what Barak is, the word Barak means lightning.
Okay.
He's the son of Abinoam, which of course comes from the word Abba. Mm-hmm. So he's the son of the father. Mm-hmm. He comes from Kadesh, which is the city of grace. So you can see some types starting to come through here. The son of the father that comes from the city of grace. He fights on Mount Tabor, which is the mountain of Jesus, the mountain of transfiguration, the mountain where Jesus appears in glory. The Bible describes him as the one who leads the stars into battle. Jesus, the stars in the Bible are symbols of angels. Jesus is the one who leads the angels into battle. The Bible describes him as leading captivity captive. You'll only find that in one other place in the Bible, and that is in the book of Ephesians, and it refers to Jesus leading captivity captive. And, of course, he's the one who brings deliverance, cop this, from the east. Jesus is the one who brings deliverance from the east. Oh, wow. And what's interesting is if you look at the Battle of Armageddon at the end of time, the Euphrates is dried up because deliverance is coming from the kings that come from the east. As Jesus comes like lightning, which is what Barak, his name means, Jesus comes like lightning from the east to deliver his people. So there's one aspect of it. So that's Barak. So Barak is all about Jesus.
Big symbol
and
this
is the significant thing about Bible battles. There are so many battles that are mentioned in the Bible in passing. Really, really interesting ones. Read about David's mighty men, and it will say, this was David's mighty man, and he stood in a field of lentils and defended it with David until his sword was stuck to his hand. He was so exhausted. And I'm like, I want to know the details. Tell me all about this battle. That's all it says. Over and over and over and over again, you get a reference to a battle with no details. The ones that have details because they're about Jesus. Okay, a woman in the Bible.
Symbol for the church.
Symbol for the church. Does the church have a role in the great controversy, in the war with Satan, in the battle of Armageddon? Absolutely the church does, because it is the church through which God's grace is activated on earth. Without the church, nothing is happening on earth.
And it's amazing how Barak says, I will go if you go, to Deborah. And Deborah said, sure, we'll go. It's almost like Jesus saying, look, I'm going to fight this battle for you, but hey, you have to come with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In the great controversy, we have to go with Jesus. Yeah. And there is going to be a fierce battle, and it's a battle that takes place every day. And typically, it is a spiritual battle, but of course the battle of Armageddon at the end of time is going to have a very physical context as well, where Satan is trying to accomplish a battle of annihilation, to wipe the knowledge of God, or the worship of God, I should say, from the earth completely, so that it never ever comes back again. And what happens is that Jesus steps in and fights a battle. He fights that battle with his church and wins a battle of annihilation.
Wow. That's quite amazing. And when you look at the story of Jael, then I also can see some glimpses of Jesus there, because she's driving, as you mentioned, a tent peg into the head of Sisera, who's representing Satan here.
Yes.
He's the commander of the Canaanite army.
Mm-hmm.
So we see, like in Genesis 3:15, that promise that he will that the seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent.
That's right.
So we're seeing the head of the serpent being crushed.
Sisera's head is crushed.
But you also see that it's crushed with a tent peg, which was something made of wood. So in the same way that we see Jesus through an implement of wood, meaning the cross, and through nails, also crushing the head of the serpent.
Yeah.
But once and for all. So there's some really interesting symbolic applications here, or types, foreshadows of God. But you know what? One thing that I find interesting about that story is that Jael kind of, to the external eye, she kind of executed a betrayal, because Sisera thought that she was a friend. And she treated him initially kind of with craftiness, or at least with deception, which she made him feel very safe and secure, and then she ended up executing her. How do you interpret that? Should we commend her for that, or should we say, oh, that was actually pretty sneaky? That was disloyalty.
Yeah, when you read the story, it seems that she actually and her family, her husband, Heber was his name, acted as a double agent. And there's every likelihood that Deborah actually used.
It was part of the strategy.
Used these guys as a double agent to reveal where her position was, so that Sisera would be drawn out to go after her. Because when you look at it, when you place them all out on a map, it's like, okay, here's where this person was, and this person is a friend of Sisera, and this is where Deborah was, and this is where Barak was, and this is where Deborah. You map it all out on a modern day map. You can see how it all comes together, and this is where Barak has positioned his two armies, and you can see that Deborah has placed herself within plain sight of Jael and her family's tent, and it would be very, very easy for her, as a friend, so to speak, of Sisera, to say, hey, this is where Deborah is. And so there's every possibility that they were actually acting as double agents. We don't know. The Bible doesn't say. But if you were going to write a movie about it, you would definitely pitch her as a double agent. Double agent.
And look, and ultimately her ultimate... because this is the thing about double agents. You never really know who they're serving.
No, you don't. You do not. Even when they're working for you, you don't know who they're serving. That's right.
You don't know. But ultimately, she was serving the Lord.
And this is the thing, because the Bible says that she is blessed above all women. Mm-hmm. That's a big statement when you think there's some pretty blessed women in the Bible.
That's right. Wow. We have been exploring the Battle of Mount Tabor in the story of Deborah and Barak, and Lyle's bringing us all kinds of insights into the military and historical context. Now we're going to get into the answer to the quiz question. So please, Elliot, what are we, who was the man who was devising some battle plans there?
Yeah, okay, so I'll read out the question, I'll tell you the answer. It says, who said, if they say thus to us, wait until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place and not go up to them? The answer is Jonathan. And you can find this in 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 8 to 10. So this is Jonathan who said that.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you very much. That was a very interesting story as well, where they have to climb up this very sharp escarpment, this very difficult mountain. And very bravely, Jonathan and his young mates, they managed to slay a number of Philistines through the help of the Lord. And he said that in that passage, the Lord can deliver through the hands of many or through the hands of only a few.
Yeah, and this is interesting because this is actually a story that was copied by Ord Wingate, who was a World War I and World War II British commander. fighting in the Middle East, and he was, sitting down in his tent one night reading this particular story, found himself to be in exactly the same location, and as a result of that, copied the strategy.
Oh, really?
It's like, okay, there's a way up there. Yep, we'll do that. And they went up.
Wow. There you go.
He even looked for the same big rock that the Bible mentions and found it.
Amazing.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.